So, is everyone's just gonna talk about the goal scorers Bruno and Mbeumo and completely ignore the world-class performance Kobbie Mainoo just dropped? And what if I told you this game was actually decided in midfield long before either goal went in? Because Carrick didn't just trust Mainoo yesterday, he built the entire game plan around him. What I'm about to show you is Carrick's genius at work, how he weaponized Kobbie Mainoo to systematically erase the Spurs midfield, and why, for the first time in years, United finally have a midfielder who is truly untouchable. Going into kickoff, the stats were ugly. United hadn't beaten Spurs in 8 straight games, a winless run stretching back to 2022. Even with an injury list as long as the M6, Spurs were a terrifying prospect. Just a week ago, this same depleted Spurs side stared down Manchester City and walked away with a 2-2 draw thanks to a Solanke masterclass. They proved they were lethal even without Madison or Kulusevski. On paper, this was the game where the Carrick honeymoon was supposed to end. But look at the opening phases. While the world expected United to be wary, Carrick's men played with a positional dominance we haven't seen at Old Trafford in years. Every passing lane Spurs needed to build momentum was already occupied. You see, most fans will tell you United won because of the red card or a bit of clinical luck. I already clarified that in the previous video, so be sure to check that out if you haven't, because the reality is the fact that Spurs' hoodoo was broken in the first 15 minutes. Before a goal was even scored, United had already established a midfield chokehold that turned the league's most dangerous underdog into a team chasing shadows. Now, I'm going to show you that match-winning assist in just a second because it was pure filth, but to understand why Mainoo was being not positioned to begin with, you have to understand the Carrick Connection. For years, United fans have been looking for the next Carrick. Little did we know, the man himself would return to the dugout to actually build one. The biggest change was the pivot. Under Ruben Amorim's back three, Mainoo often looked lost, told he could even leave the club, but Carrick has handed him the keys in a traditional 4-2-3-1. This is the Casemiro safety net. By having a 5-time Champions League winner acting as a human shield, Mainoo is finally free to roam. He's not worried about the counterattack because Casemiro is sweeping up. This freedom is exactly what allowed him to ghost into the box for that opening goal. Feel free to call this the mirror effect. In 2008, Carrick was the league's silent assassin, efficient, quiet, and deadly. Yesterday, Mainoo mirrored that perfectly. He didn't need 100 stepovers, he just needed to be in the right place at the right time. And that brings us back to the 38th minute, the moment where Carrick ball and Mainoo's genius collided to break the Spurs hoodoo once and for all. Look at this. Everyone in the stadium expects a high cross into the box. Spurs have their bigs matched up and they think they've covered the danger, but watch the communication here. This is the training ground routine Carrick mentioned after the match. Bruno doesn't look for the header, he looks for Mainoo's feet. And this is the genius of Kobbie Mainoo. Most 20-year-olds would panic with Mickey Van Deven breathing down their neck. Mainoo doesn't even take a touch to control it. He uses a deft outside-of-the-boot flick that completely bypasses the Spurs' front line. It's 1-0 and Old Trafford went into an absolute frenzy. But here's the scariest part for Spurs fans. It wasn't just that they were behind, it was that they had no way out. In a moment, I'm going to show you the systematic erasure that happened right after this goal, because if you think Spurs were going to provide a response, you haven't seen what Carrick did to their bench. Look at this clip right here. This is exactly what Michael Carrick means when he calls Kobbie unflappable. Spurs have identified Mainoo as the heart of United's build-up, so the instruction is clear: swarm him. As soon as the ball touches his boots, Spurs players rush him, convinced they're about to force a high turnover. But watch Kobbie's feet. He doesn't panic. He uses these sleek, almost lazy-looking body feints to sell a pass to the left, which completely freezes Conor Gallagher. Then, in one fluid motion, he rolls the ball into the very space they just vacated. By drawing them in, he isn't just keeping the ball, he's weaponizing their own aggression against them. He's so quick at releasing the pass that by the time Spurs realize they've missed the tackle, United are already 40 yards up the pitch. It's tricky, it's sleek, and it's why Spurs spent 90 minutes chasing a ghost they could see but never quite touch. Now look at the frustration on the faces of Xavi Simons and Conor Gallagher. These aren't just tired players, these are players who have been tactically outthought. Thomas Frank came to Old Trafford with a specific plan: press high, win the ball early, and suffocate United. And for about 10 minutes, it looked like it might work. But then Mainoo started playing his one-touch game. Every time Spurs stepped up to trap him, he was already gone. He turned their high press into a game of chasing shadows. But it wasn't just about the skill, it was the sheer engine. Mainoo covered 12.9 kilometers yesterday. That's more than Gallagher, more than Sarr. He literally outworked the hardest working midfield in the league. Spurs didn't have an answer because you can't press someone who is already 2 steps ahead of you. But here's where the Carrick blueprint really comes to life. If the first goal was about a clever routine, the second goal was about a hierarchy of control. See, for this system to work, you need 3 very different profiles. You have Casemiro, the engine. He's the foundation, the one who sat in the shadows all game and allowed United to withstand Spurs' late desperate surges. Then you have Kobbie Mainoo, the driver. He's the one moving the ball through the gears, escaping the press, and making sure the transition from back to front is seamless. And finally, you have Bruno Fernandes, the conductor. Look at this movement. While everyone's watching Dalot on the wing, Bruno is already orchestrating the space. He doesn't sprint, he glides. He waits for the exact moment the Spurs backline switches off to gamble on that back post delivery. That finish wasn't just a goal, it was history. His 200th goal involvement for Manchester United. He's reached that landmark faster than Cristiano Ronaldo and David Beckham. This is why the Carrick 4-2-3-1 is working. He stopped asking Bruno to do everything and instead gave him a platform to be the finisher. Casemiro secures the house, Mainoo drives the car, and Bruno just finishes the job. But as the celebrations die down at Old Trafford, the conversation is shifting. Because it's one thing to beat a 10-man Spurs side, it's another to look at the calendar and realize this midfield masterclass has an expiration date. Look at the impact of Bruno's last injury. For those 3 games he missed, United looked like a team without a pulse. At 31, he's still the conductor, but he's no longer indestructible. The Spurs win was his 200th goal involvement, but it was also a reminder that we are dangerously reliant on a player who is entering the final chapter of his prime. And then there's the engine. Casemiro has officially confirmed he's leaving in the next window, likely for the MLS. He's been the human shield that allowed Kobbie Mainoo to thrive under Carrick, and in 4 months, that shield is gone. Which brings us to the real question of the Carrick era. If Casemiro leaves and Bruno continues to battle the clock, Mainoo isn't just the next big thing anymore, he is the only thing. Carrick has built a system that works perfectly right now, but he's building it on a foundation that is about to disappear. But that's where you come in, and I really want to hear from you. I want you to head to the comments right now and give me 2 names. Tell me one player the board should sign to replace the defensive steel of Casemiro, and another to eventually take the baton from Bruno to ensure that Kobbie Mainoo keeps performing at this world-class level. Are we going all in on Adam Wharton, Anderson, or Balaba? Or is Nico Paz the heir to the throne? Or perhaps there's a hidden gem Carrick should be looking at? Drop your 2 signings below, hit that like button if you think the Carrick revolution is the real deal, and subscribe so you don't miss our deep dive into the West Ham game on Tuesday. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.